end of a long week. It's finally Friday. My daughter's in the kitchen making fudge right now. So trust me, I know about sugar cravings and carbohydrates. The only way that I've been able to fight them this week is by eating a lot of eggs and butter for breakfast. And then I've had some awesome, epic green salads for lunch with avocado, maybe some really hard, flavorful cheese. I dump a little vinegar, a little olive oil on there. And that really sets me up at lunchtime, so gets me through the carb cravings. But gotta have the protein and the fat, otherwise carbohydrates come calling. And where I work at the free clinic, everybody's eating carbs all day long. People think that it's nice when they volunteer to bring in 24 donuts or 50 bagels, and I don't eat those, and several of the staff don't eat them, so that's kind of nice. They just sit there, which is a change from how it was in the old days when we all were carb fiends and that's all we ate was carbs and sugar. Okay, today I want to talk about insulin. This is for type 2 diabetes. Okay, that's what my blog's about. If you have type 1 diabetes, I'm not the specialist, but also you have to take insulin or you'll die, right? For type 1 diabetes. If you have type 2 diabetes, you might get by for a while without insulin, but there may come a time when you really need insulin, and your healthcare provider, they may tell you, look, it's time to get started on insulin. And a lot of times this happens when your blood sugars are just really high. I usually start people on insulin if they're already on pills and their A1C is still over 9, then we start talking about insulin. If you're not on pills and your A1C is 9, we might be able to start metformin or some other medication, pills, to get your blood sugar down. But if you've been on the pills already and your blood sugar is really high, you might need insulin. Now, if you're just a brand new diabetic, you just got diagnosed recently, but your blood sugars are like 500 or 600, you probably need insulin, at least for now, to get your blood sugars down. Once you get your blood sugars down and you change your diet and you stop drinking pop, you stop eating tortillas and tamales and maseca and rice, and you stop drinking gallons of milk, you might not need your insulin for long term for type 2 diabetes. Every time I bring up the topic of insulin in the clinic, people get scared. Now, there's a lot of horror stories out there, and some of them are true. As a critical care nurse, I've seen people in diabetic comas. Now, when we say diabetic coma, that could mean a lot of different things. Either the blood sugar's sky high, like 1200, or their blood sugar's way too low. And I've seen people with severe brain damage who never woke up from their coma or their persistent vegetative state because of insulin. Now, that's almost always somebody with type 1 diabetes or somebody that was trying to commit suicide, or, well, that's the only times I've seen it, actually, personally. But if you are intelligent and you don't take mealtime insulin when you don't eat, then you will be safe. The long-acting 24-hour insulins are really safe, and they don't drop your blood sugars unless you start working out and you're running a marathon or doing CrossFit, and that's a new thing for you and you haven't figured out how to adjust your insulin dose to match that high level of activity. You should be afraid of diabetes. Diabetes is what is going to kill your kidneys and what is going to cause a heart attack, cause you to go blind, cause you to need dialysis because your kidneys fail, and causes cardiovascular disease. So that includes things like strokes and artery disease, and it causes you to get peripheral neuropathy, so you lose your feeling in your feet and you eventually get amputations because you get foot infections. That's what you should be afraid of. Diabetes is very scary. Insulin is not the cause of all that bad stuff. All that bad stuff is caused by diabetes, which is what insulin treats. So, insulin is how you protect all of your body parts, like your brain and your heart and your kidneys and your feet and your eyes. Insulin will protect you from those super high blood sugars and the super high A1C that causes all of that damage. Don't be afraid to start insulin. It doesn't mean you're going to need to be on it forever. I've had a lot of patients who take it for a while and then they get off of it and then they do okay without it. You may not need insulin forever. Don't be afraid that it's a life sentence or it's a death sentence, that it means you're over the hill and gaining speed and you're going to die soon. It doesn't mean that. In fact, taking insulin will make you live longer because it's getting your A1C down. A high A1C is what makes you die way sooner. Of course, side note, high A1C, if you keep smoking, you're going to die really soon. So, don't smoke. Other things that people are afraid of with starting insulin. You can't take insulin if you're a truck driver and you have a commercial driver's license. The thing is about all you truck drivers who are putting off insulin because you want to keep driving truck. Now I understand that driving truck is a really good way to make money. It's a great job, but the federal guidelines say out of control diabetes. They don't say just insulin. So if your A1C is like 12, I've seen this so many times. People wanted a commercial driver's license, but their A1C was like 12, but they were refusing insulin. Well, you really can't get a commercial driver's license if your diabetes is completely out of control, because you're very high risk of dying of heart attack or stroke, just not, you get brain damage from that high blood sugar. So you're not cognitively able to drive a big rig if your diabetes is out of control. One thing, start looking for a different job if you have out of control diabetes. You really need to seriously consider taking insulin to get your blood sugars down, because what's the point of making extra money this year if you're going to die next year? If your A1C is 13 or 14, you're still smoking, and you're 200 pounds overweight, you're going to die in the next few years. I had to have this hospice kind of talk yesterday with a patient and her 2 children who are teenagers, because her A1C has been 14 or higher for the last 6 years that I've known her, and we've never been able to break down whatever barriers she's got to get her to take her insulin and to get her A1C down. So her kidneys are shutting down. She's going to lose her feet in the next few months, and she's going to have a stroke or heart attack, and really her prognosis is less than a year or 2. And when you're only 50, that's pretty scary. So taking insulin is what will protect you from dying that young if you get your A1Cs down. Now, like I said, if you have type 2 diabetes, you may not need insulin forever. You may be able to change your diet, stop eating crap, stop eating carbohydrates, stop eating pure sugar, stop drinking pop, stop smoking, because smoking actually makes you crave carbohydrates. It's hard to quit all of your other addictions when you still smoke, because smoking reinforces all of your other addictions, like alcohol, gambling, and alcohol, gambling, drugs, and sugar, carbohydrates. Quitting smoking, very traumatic. You can do it, and then you will find it easier to resist carbohydrates and your other addictions and temptations. Carbohydrate addiction is a real thing. It's just as addictive as heroin. It's just more socially acceptable, so people don't murder to get sugar as often as they murder to get heroin, I guess. Insulin, yeah, it probably really doesn't hurt that much. You're just a weenie. Poking your finger really hurts. And I'm a weenie, because that hurts. And these are my banjo fingers. I don't like sticking needles in them. But sticking the needle in the fat in your belly. I mean, it's just fat. You don't need fat anyway. Who wants fat? You might as well poke a needle in it just to remind yourself to get rid of the fat, right? So it doesn't hurt. You can use your belly. You can use the top of your legs. You can use the back of your arms. Anywhere there's fat, really, you can pinch an inch of fat. You can put that insulin needle. So it's not a big deal, really. So don't be afraid of the pain, because it really doesn't hurt compared to peripheral neuropathy that you'll get if your blood sugars are way too high and your feet feel like they're on fire and like you're walking on rocks and coals all the time. That's what you should be afraid of, not afraid of taking insulin, which will protect you from peripheral neuropathy. Hey, my blog is Diabetic Dogmalysis. I'll leave a link. If you have questions about type 2 diabetes that you want me to talk about or write about, hit me up. Put comments on the YouTube channel, put comments on the blog, put comments on my Facebook page, put comments on Twitter, and we'll talk about diabetes, weight loss, mental health, depression, suicide. I'm hoping to write a blog post tonight about suicide and depression. Nutrition is something I'm really interested in. I'm not pretending to be an expert in a lot of things. Like, there are so many fitness experts and nutrition experts out there, but what I'm good at is helping people who have diabetes and have no health insurance and no way to get the expensive medications, and who also just want to learn more about type 2 diabetes. There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet about type 1 diabetes. That's a whole different game than type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is when you may not need insulin. Your pancreas is still working a little bit, and